There's scientific evidence to point that seed oils really are bad for your health?
100%. What's the problem with seed oils? Well, a lot of the issue becomes the extraction of getting the oil out of the seed. It requires solvents, it requires chemical extraction, and it's those chemicals that get found in those oils that really can cause problems because they can wreak havoc on your body, on your cells, they can cause inflammation. We're consuming foods that are pro-inflammatory and they're causing inflammation, like a ring of inflammation around my cell. It's like a great big ball of fire. How do I avoid seed oil? You can ask the restaurant what oils they use. There's an app called the Seed Oil Scout. So download the app, Seed Oil Scout. That will help you to be able to determine, because they'll go around and they'll check with each of the restaurants what they use, what oils they use. The other thing that you'll want to be careful with is breaded, fried foods.
What are seed oils and why should anybody care?
Well, seed oils extracted from the seeds of plants are essentially potentially inflammatory to our bodies and can cause damage down the road to our organs, to our vessels, cardiovascular health. So we have to care if we care about our health long term.
It seems like a lot of people are talking about seed oils, and Robert F. Kennedy, I think, has spoken about them, and you can touch on that. But then I hear other people saying seed oils aren't the problem. You need to stop listening to that. I'm a nutritionist, and here's what I think. Is it overblown as an issue? Is it underblown? Like, I guess, give me the intro to seed oils. We've just met, and I want to know, you're a natural health guy, right? You're a natural health practitioner.
For sure. Are seed oils evil is what you're asking me too. And Dr. Ron Dummar, that's my name, chiropractic physician, Chinese medicine doctor, functional medicine doctor. I've been doing this for 17 years in Heber, serving the public and people throughout the world, doing online consultations and virtual consultations and helping them optimize ultimately their health, reversing cardiovascular related diseases. And so we are going to provide tips and recommendations with regards to seed oils today that I think will benefit our listeners.
Well, yeah, you're Dr. Ron Dummar, and as you said, you have this clinic here, and I've been drawn to it, and I've just seen the way that you've healed a lot of people, and you've made a big difference in my life. So I was like, felt bad every time I would ask you for advice in passing, between acupuncture or the lobby, and so I was like, let's just start a podcast so I can just ask you the questions that I'm really curious about, because I know you know so much. So anyway, great healer. And yeah, seed oils, like I said, I meet you and I hear what you do for a living. I'm like, hey doc, are seed oils a big deal?
Yeah. Well, again, on our meeting, it really was quite organic, right? It was quite organic. Using the word intentionally right now.
Well, because seeds seem
our development
and
was
natural.
Really organic, the development of this podcast.
Totally.
And that's ultimately what we want to be using, right? And we say seed oils, what's the problem with seed oils? Well, a lot of the issue becomes the extraction of getting the oil out of the seed. It's a very laborious process. It requires solvents, it requires chemical extraction. So there's a lot of residue, a potential for residues. And it's those chemicals that get found in those oils that really can cause problems. So you can even have pesticides and herbicides that find their way into these oils that you choose to cook with.
So let's talk about what are seed oils. Like, just give me the names of the ones that people are going to get if they're eating in restaurants or if they're just cooking at home.
So canola oil is a big one. Corn oil is another one. Cottonseed oil, palm. There's palm kernel oil also is a common one that people use. All of those have their own individual problems. Most of them have they favor the omega-6 as opposed to the omega-3 side of the equation. So you're looking at this ratio, omega-6 to omega-3, and a lot of people have heard of omega-3 fatty acids. There's also omega-9s. Omega-9 is really, really robust in the content of olive oil. Olive oil is a very neutral oil. We look at it as very neutral.
That's a good oil, right?
It's a good oil, yeah.
That's
and so olive oil, as it's from the fruit, we get the fruit of the plant itself, not the seed. And so we extract the oil from the fruit, and it's actually quite easy. They've been doing it for thousands of years, millennia, extracting the oil from the olives. And they've used it as for lanterns. They've used it for light. They've used it for energy in a variety of different ways throughout time, throughout history. And so now we're still using olive oil in our cooking. We're using it in a lot of different places. We use it in skin products, natural health skin products. And it's a very, very beneficial oil that can be used in a diverse way. Okay. So, but when we're talking about this, we're also looking at not just these seed oils, but also partially hydrogenated oils. So if you take these oils and then you process them further and partially hydrogenate them, it makes them even worse. So any of these seed oils, again, it's the level of processing that they have to go through and the number of chemicals and solvents that are used in the extraction process. If you want to have a fun activity, a fun evening some night, grab a bag of popcorn and go look at how canola is made, and maybe even you can search into YouTube rapeseed oil, which essentially is where canola comes from. It's the rapeseed that they extract it from. And look at the number of steps and the time that is put into extracting the oil from that seed. It's an extensive process, and there's solvents and chemicals involved that we really don't want in our bodies.
So when you talk about the whole process there, I guess I think of like vegetable oil. Or what are they using in restaurants? Something like canola oil?
Yeah, same thing. They're using vegetable oils, canola oils.
And they're cheap, right? They're cheap to get.
It's easy to produce them. Yeah.
It is.
Even though we talk about this level of processing, the steps and the number of steps that they have to go through, it's actually relatively cheap. Now, I don't know if that's because I should have maybe looked more into this, but it may be because of subsidizing by the government. They might subsidize certain processes. But right now, they're very, very cheap oils. They just happen to be problematic in our health.
Well, that just happens to be why we're here at the Be Well Now podcast talking about it. So is it something I should stop doing or stop buying? Like, which is the most problematic one? I mean, give me the number one tip around seed oils.
Well, yeah, when we look at, first of all, let's understand too, blood sugar. When, it can have an impact on your blood sugar. These seed oils can, because they can wreak havoc on your body, on your cells. They can cause inflammation. So if they start to cause inflammation to your cells themselves, then it will impact and influence ultimately how your body is interacting with insulin. And insulin itself is designed to actually push sugar into your cell. So the moment that it's not able to get into your cell, it's not able to get sugar into your cell, then we start experiencing blood sugar spikes, right? And then the body gets a signal that we need to have more insulin because we're not getting enough sugar into our cells. So then we're having blood sugar spikes and we're having insulin spikes. And remember we talked previously about how, a little bit of spike of insulin is not a bad thing. But if we have it repeatedly, that's when it becomes a problem, because it's overwhelming our cells and it's shutting us down and creating ultimately this state of insulin resistance.
And how do you get those fast spikes? What causes that?
The quick, fast spiking is largely from inflammation. So the inflammation is elicited via the consumption of poor quality oils and also the chemicals and solvents that are contained within those oils. So it will irritate the lining. So there's another part of the impact that these seed oils can have on your cardiovascular system is essentially the endothelial lining. It's kind of the inner layer of the vessel itself. And it can get in there, these oils can get in there and cause irritation to the lining and cause inflammation. And if it has inflammation, it begins to break things down and causes hardening of the arteries. And it can elevate blood pressure. It can reduce the impact or the elasticity of your vessels, which means when you want to have reduced blood pressure or your body needs to have a reduction of blood pressure, your vessels should be able to open and cause relaxation, right? And so you'll have a reduction in blood pressure. But if we can't relax and tense the vessel, then we're not able to control our blood pressure at all. And so if we have certain moments, right, where we have a really tense situation, the blood pressure is going to go completely erratic and our body's not going to be able to maintain it properly. So a lot of that comes from the seed oils that interferes with the endothelial lining within the body. So some of these products that people might want to look out for too are things like margarine, okay, Crisco, right? These are very, very commonly used, especially in the past have been very commonly used. Any substitute like oil or butter substitute are really going to be partially hydrogenated or basically one of these seed oils is really going to be the base of it.
So margarine's bad?
Margarine is definitely going to be...
My grandma used to feed that. So
it's going to be worse for your body than olive oil. So let me step back for a minute, because you started off in a minute started off our podcast saying, hey, look, we hear about these seed oils. Some people say they're bad. Some people say, hey, it's not the seed oils. You need to get off that bandwagon. Well, here's the deal. The truth is, it's not just the seed oil. The seed is a plant. It comes from a plant. It's a naturally occurring thing. You know that I love plants. I'm a big fan of everything that's natural in the world around us and our ability to be able to utilize it. But it's the process of getting the oil and the extraction of that oil. And so we need to make sure that we are using really good, safe mechanisms and processes in order to do that. And the least processing that we can take or that we can have within a plant in order to extract the oil is going to tell us essentially what quality that is for our body. So it's going to be a higher quality if it doesn't require such significant processing.
So olive oil comes from olives.
So olive oil is very easy processing. You want to do cold pressed olive oil, right? Like extra virgin olive oil is really what you're looking for, so that there's not a lot of extra heat involved in the process.
I mean, there's also good oils like avocado oil and coconut oil,
butter.
And are those also minimally processed? Is that the whole idea here? That's like the whole theme of this podcast.
So how is butter made? It's like
Tell me.
churn. I mean, you look at the original way of making butter, and we're not a whole lot far from that right now. The more chemically laden that a process is, that's where we want to stay away from. Okay, so to get from butter to ghee what's that process? That process is basically just heat. So to get from butter to ghee, and ghee is actually even a better quality oil than just butter itself, you still get the butyric acid in the butter, but you're getting rid of the milk proteins and all of that extra animal extract. And so ultimately what we do to get from butter to ghee is we simmer it for a certain point of time. But we're not adding a solvent. We're not adding a chemical extractant agent. We don't have to take it through some big manufacturing process to get there. It's just adding heat for a certain number of time, and then all of a sudden you get the ghee. Okay? So it's a very simple process, a process that we've actually been able to, from the beginning of time, implement, right? And it's not needed any new technique or chemical synthesis or synthetic process in order to implement that. So yes, we can say with pretty good assurity that most quality butter products that we have on the shelf today are pretty good, right? So olive oil is good, avocado oil, ghee, even tallow has minimal processing. So those are all good quality oils. But we, in this podcast, wanted to focus on the poor quality oils and the things that they would do to your body.
And I'm just trying to, maybe you can answer this. I know we didn't talk about this before, but like in the grand scheme of things, where does this land? Is it a big deal? Is it kind of a small deal? I mean,
yeah, you're looking at stages, right? You're looking at good, better, best.
How many things do we have to focus on in our life? And like, do I need to worry about this? Is what I'm really wondering. I hear all of these things. So it's like one of my tips that I have at the near the end of this, but one of the tips that I wanted to make sure that we said is that, look, if you have to take or consume seed oils, try to consume them once or twice a week, right? Like limit the consumption of them. If you're going to go out to eat, well, how do I avoid seed oils? Well, you can ask the restaurant what oils they use. There's an app called the Seed Oil Scout. So download the app, Seed Oil Scout. That will help you to be able to determine, because they'll go around and they'll check with each of the restaurants what they use, what oils they use. The other thing that you'll want to be careful with is breaded fried foods. So instead of having fried foods, go with the steamed foods. Okay, or the baked foods. Those are the ones that are going to be a whole lot better for you. And then instead of having, chips or fries,
Maybe you could have, and this is more like at home, instead of having chips or something like that, you could have, air fried popcorn. Very simple, and you can have butter with that if you want, right? Real butter, not fake margarine,
right?
Chemical butter, right? Not a substitute, but actually the real thing. And so you're wanting to get things as close as possible to their actual original environment. And then with minimal processing, putting it into a position where we can better absorb it as human beings. In fact, even with cow product, we have these enzymes or these proteins. Casein is one of them, and whey, right? But it's like these proteins are really from dairy. They're dairy proteins, and it's hard actually for our body to break them down and to utilize them because they're quite large proteins. Large proteins in dairy are very difficult for our body to break down and can themselves cause inflammation. So one of the things that we can do to mitigate that is we can utilize either probiotics or digestive enzymes, right? And when we're consuming those type of foods, we can also use colostrum, lactoferrin, to help our body and support it in breaking down those foods. And so that's going to help mitigate a lot of the inflammation that we would otherwise experience when consuming these foods and these oils.
So a high quality enzyme laden probiotic like you have at the office, before I've traveled, you've told me to take one of these before, and it's now just my go-to probiotic, so I try to take it before a weird meal.
Exactly.
Is that what you recommend?
You're going to go out, take a probiotic, take a good probiotic or a good digestive enzyme to make sure that your body is primed and ready to break that down. It's also a good amount of HCl or apple cider vinegar, something as simple as that, is one of the best tools you can utilize to rev up your immune response before you go out to eat. So when we consume food, we're supposed to have a very acidic state environment in the stomach so that we can break down the bacterial cell walls and so that we can break down and unravel viruses so that it won't have a negative impact on our bodies. But if we have a dysfunction in the balance of pH in our stomach, then we're obviously going to reach a situation where we're not going to be able to break our food down appropriately, and we're even going to probably pass through some of these bacteria or even viruses to get later on in digestion and then make their way into the body, and all of a sudden they're internal. And now we have an internal ailment or state of disease or autoimmune condition that we've developed as a result of having a poor acid-base balance in the stomach. And these are things we can pick up on labs, and we see these all the time. Like patients have dysfunction in their ability to break foods down. They're not absorbing nutrients. We see a dysfunction in their minerals, right? And then and then maybe their protein is off and their blood urea nitrogen. And then we look at that and we say, okay, hey, you have a dysfunction, a digestive distress issue. So we need to help from north to south. I like to say from north to south is making sure that the enzymes in the mouth, making sure the mouth, teeth, and gums, make sure their dentistry is all appropriate and right, and then make sure the stomach is in good order, that the acid is ready to break down the food that you're going to consume. And so all of those things need to be in order. And then if we take that, we have all those in order, and then we consume these seed oils. Again, we have to remember these seed oils, given all things, without the processing, without the looking at the fact that we use chemical solvents and things like that and extracting techniques, without that, it still has a higher omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, which means it's going to lean on the inflammatory side, period, regardless, right? Then you look at olive oil, it's omega-9. You look at more like fish oils or things like that, it's omega-3, okay? So you've got a lot of omega-3s in coconut oil. You got a lot of omega-3s in avocado oil. You've got a lot of omega-3s in those oils. You also have omega-6s and omega-9s, but you have way higher amounts of omega-6s, which are inflammatory, in cottonseed oil, in canola oil, right? And in those seed oils that are extracted
even before they're extracted, they're already...
Even before they're extracted. Yeah, so if you're eating them in their natural state, you're still having a higher proclivity to inflammation. There was actually a 2019 British Medical Journal study that found that high omega-6 intake from seed oils is linked to increased inflammation and cardiovascular disease. So this is all, what we're giving you today is all backed in science. It's all researched and backed up. It's not like I'm just speaking out of, the side of my mouth.
You don't like the vibes, so you're like, no, seed oils are bad.
Yeah, like, no, done deal, man.
There's scientific evidence to point that seed oils really are bad for your health?
100%. Yes. I mean, a 2020 study, for instance, in metabolism, right? It showed that diets high in omega-6 fatty acids from seed oils increased the markers of insulin resistance in animal models and suggested that similar effects is taking place in humans over time. So what we're seeing is we consume these omega-6s, which are the seed oils. They're promoting inflammation. They're disrupting our insulin, like we talked about before, and they're preventing our body from actually collecting sugar, from the cells from getting sugar. Well, it's going to put us in a state where we're metabolically dysfunctional and we have zero energy, but we're consuming tons of food. We're consuming lots of food, but we're not getting the energy out of it because we're consuming foods that are pro-inflammatory, and they're causing inflammation, like a ring of inflammation around my cell. It's like a great big ball of fire, right? And as a result, insulin tries to knock on the door and it's too inflamed to actually open the door because it's swollen, right? The hinges won't even move. It's like we can't open the door. We just can't because we're inflamed. And so insulin's knocking and it's trying to introduce sugar. Sugar can't get into the cell. So you have no energy. So metabolically you become dysfunctional. Once you're dysfunctional, now you can't detoxify. Now you can't detoxify, you just get more and more and more inflamed. And it becomes this perpetual process until finally we can say, okay, let's take all the new cells, because these old cells just kind of have to be written off to some level. We'll try to calm them down a little bit. But we got to take these new cells that are being produced, and then we have to nourish them and support them and give them the appropriate omegas, the appropriate oils, so that they know with that phospholipid bilayer. The cell itself is a phospholipid bilayer, meaning that there's fat that actually encompasses our cell. And so if we give it poor quality fat, which is seed oils, high omega-6, pro-inflammatory, it's going to cause inflammation to that fatty cell wall. Okay? If we can give it good quality oils, then we can keep those hinges on the doors open and close and open and close, and then they can allow the sugar in, and then we can appropriately deal with all of the things that we need to deal with and get our cell metabolically functional again.
What have we not talked about?
Oh, well, I mean, there are a number of things. I think we mostly covered it, but oxidative stress is one other thing too. The process of a lot of these cell products, especially the hydrogenated oils, they'll increase our LDL. And oftentimes people will refer to LDL in the body, they'll refer to it as the bad cholesterol. And I think I've mentioned this a number of times on this podcast, but I'll continue to mention it over and over again until people actually have it sink in. But there is no bad cholesterol. There is no bad cholesterol, okay? That doesn't exist. Bad cholesterol is a bad description, right, of a process that takes place with the cholesterol that your body makes. And the cholesterol your body makes are LDL and HDL, okay? And these LDL and HDL particles are actually the healing tissue for your body, okay? And so it's like looking at LDL and HDL, looking at the fat molecules being produced by your body, which is actually your healing tissue, and then calling the healing tissue a problem. Well, that doesn't make sense to say, oh, that's bad. A healing tissue is bad. No, we would never say that. Healing tissue is good. We want to promote healing tissue, but we need to promote it in balance. Again, it's the same thing. So HDL and LDL work together symbiotically to heal cardiovascular system irritation. So when we have like a sore or lesion, irritation, damage from eating seed oils to our cardiovascular system, something has to heal it. And we don't feel that process. We'll feel it in our mouth, teeth, and gums, like a sore or an ulceration in our mouth. We don't ever feel a scab in there because it's actually LDL and HDL that heal that. It heals it, takes care of it, and all of a sudden we wake up and we're like, that felt better. I never felt a scab. That was weird. But if we have a little sore or ulceration on our skin, the fibrin's laid down, it gets really adhesive, we have a little scab in there, okay? So the reason I'm telling you that is it's fat that heals the internal aspect or environment of our body. The cardiovascular system is this cholesterol. Our brain as well. So our brain is healed by cholesterol, LDL and HDL. So if my LDL is way higher than my HDL, and that ratio of HDL to LDL is way off. That's a problem. We could call that bad, right? But not LDL on its own. We don't call that bad. LDL is low density lipoprotein, which means it's small. And so because it's small, it has the capacity to potentially get embedded into a lesion or a sore or swelling within the vessel. And if it drops into that and gets trapped in there, it can oxidize. And if fat oxidizes, then it can develop like aldehydes and all sorts of pro-inflammatory chemicals. Okay? And we don't want that happening in our vessel because that will lead to fatty plaquing, and that will lead to calcification of the arteries, and that makes the arteries tense. And then we can't expand, dilate, and contract the arterial wall, right? And so we have to make sure that the intimal lining and the intimal layers of the vessel is the endothelium is essentially in good health. And the way we do that is we promote healthy fats. We promote the consumption of fat, of quality fats, right? Like avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil, ghee, butter, tallow. And you consume those fats and exclude the seed oils as much as you can. And then let's say you eat out and you happen to eat out and have some seed oils when you eat out, it's not going to be much of an issue at all because your cholesterol levels, your LDL and HDL, are well balanced. And so any irritation to your cardiovascular system from the seed oils and the inflammation that it causes is going to be mitigated from the proper balanced diet that you've had. So again, going back to your question, are seed oils evil? Should we avoid them at all cost? Or are they just part of nature and we need to have a proper balance? The problem is they're usually in such high demand or high supply in our diet that it causes inflammation. And so it tips the scale to inflammation as opposed to tipping the scale to anti-inflammation.
What you're telling me is seed oils are kind of common.
The seed oils are everywhere, yeah. Yeah. And you're going to consume them. Of course we're going to consume them. But what we need to do is aim for consumption of quality oils and anti-inflammatory oils, omega-3s, omega-9s, and things like that are going to be a lot better for our bodies.
Sounds like some amazing advice.
You like that, Nick? Okay.
Sounds like some be well now. I want to be well now. I want to get the seed oils out of my life and reduce inflammation. This makes a lot of sense to me. What do you think is next for seed oils? Are they just going to keep becoming I think everywhere?
Seed oils, again, we find seed oils a lot in restaurants. I know this is our outro, and here we are introducing more, but seed oils are found in restaurants, right? This is where we incorporate them a lot.
Yeah.
These restaurants, in breaded fried foods, things like that. You might have seed oils utilized at a party that you go to or something where you're deep frying things, right? But that's where people generally run into them.
So if I'm in a restaurant and my kids are ordering the chicken fingers and I know they're bad, it's partially because of the seed oils involved in the frying process.
That's right.
And then the seed oils in your fries probably are pretty... I mean, what are the frequent flyers? What are the ones that you're going to have seed oils in a lot if you eat out?
Well, it's breaded fried food. Like think of do I like the orange chicken? Well, if you like the orange chicken is usually breaded. If there's an orange chicken variety that is baked, and it's not fried or breaded, then great, go for it. Or try something different. When I stopped a long time ago, just because for me, I noticed with my body that when I ate breaded fried food, it didn't make me feel good, right? And I felt the inflammation from it, and in my body, I felt a disruption in my GI. I felt kind of heartburny and things like that. And when I eliminated those things or began to reduce them in a significant way from my diet, all of those symptoms just went away. They completely cleared up because I wasn't pro-inflammatory anymore. I was reducing the overall inflammation in my body, and I was allowing my cells to actually clean themselves out and detoxify.
So listen to your body. When it's telling you something,
Amen.
It's probably a reason.
Amen. Listen to your body. And we can cue the music again.
One more time.
There we go.
There it is.
There we go.
Another excellent episode of the Be Well Now podcast, if I do say so.
I enjoyed it. I think it was good. Well, maybe I took a moment to get into it, but it was good.
That was good. And if you have any ideas for the next podcast, leave them down below or send an email to bewellnowpodcast@gmail.com. And if they want to learn more about community health and wellness in Heber, where do they go?
Man, you can look us up at chwheber.com, or you can reach out, even text us or call us at 435-657-3696.
All right. Be well now, everybody.
Be well now. Namaste.
Namaste.